Welcome back. Thank you for still staying with us. Unfortunately, we weren't able to reconnect with our guest, Omar Balasi, but we have another guest from Birnin Kebi. His name is Aliyu Abubakar Wasagu. He is a member representing Kebi South at Nigerian Youth Parliament, and we're going to be looking at youth and June 12th. Good morning, Aliyu. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you. I'm fine.
All right. Now, looking at June 12 and its significance in the country, some
Yes.
Nigerian youths would wonder why should this matter to us, particularly those born after 1993. So, in your opinion, why should this day, June 12, matter to Nigerian youths?
If we look at the whole day, it's one of the most important or historical day in the history of this country. Why we say so? Because we are the bigger beneficiaries of this democracy that we are talking about. Anybody who is within the age bracket of the youth, I think is one of the biggest beneficiary of this democracy day, because he lives with a few number of the disruption from the military rules. So therefore, I think since we are managed to reach up to 26 years of this democracy, I think the youth are one of the biggest beneficiary of this democracy day. So
Okay, and
to me, that's
but do you think that today's youth, the young people, do you think they fully understand, the significance of this June 12th, particularly in our democratic history? Do they understand what it is all about exactly?
yes, I can say so, because we are the biggest beneficiary of the day. Why I said so? Because our predecessors that this one knew it much more better, because they knew that during the military roles, the kind of many other issues are no longer there. Though there are diverse opinions in respect to this day, there are some people that are still seeing this day as a as in there are a lot of things to do. We need to aspire for more participation of the youth, among many other things.
During that election in June 12, Nigerians actually pushed back and, expressed some form of dissatisfaction on the outcome of that election. Now, how would you compare, the activism or the way Nigerians responded during that period with the recent movements that Nigerian youths are leading now, such as, the NSAS and other forms of protests and pushbacks from the youths? How would you compare the two?
Oh, what I can say in respect to this, there are two things. We have advancement of technology, which may support the movement. During that time, they suffered a lot because the shortage of the technological equipment that will support their movement give them a tough time. So before them, sometimes some of the key decisions in advocacy, you may even be arrested during that time without anybody knowing about it. But during these days, the advocacy is more easier. Why I said so? Because we have the media. Anything that is happening, the press are doing their own best. So that's why even if something happen in Burning Kebi, you may likely see it in Abuja, even outside the country itself. So this advancement of technology have supported us in so many ways. So they are totally incomparable because of the advancement of the technology. But still, all we can say, we can never, undermine their effort, because they are the real heroes of our democracy, because they are the ones that fought it with the real spirit, though the momentum is still ongoing.
Do you think our current democratic structure, reflects the hopes and ideals of the younger people, the youth in Nigeria currently?
Let me say it in unequivocally clear to a country It does not, because it doesn't reflect our expectations. Because if you look at the way our electoral process, the kind of advocacy among many, even the leadership management, there are a lot of challenges, and the youth are not at the front line. And if you look at the situation of the country, any kind of developed country in the world, we need to have youth at the front line of the battle, because they are the most energetic, they are the most innovative. So if they are at the front line in governance, in leadership, in the politics, among many others, so you come around realizing that that country is moving forward so fast. But in Nigeria, or let me say Africa as a whole, youth are just being used as a machineries of coordinating those activities. But actuals, those that are spearheading the appearance of the whole issues are the old timers. So therefore, if we said it reflects the youth, we can say no flagrantly, but there are a lot of things that needs to be put in place. Yeah, because the youth are more inclusion, almost all ramification in the electoral process, though we are the ones that are being used in coordinating the activities, but we are still lag behind. So for us to talk about reflection of the youth in these areas, it means it requires a lot. We need to be strategically engaged so that the main target objective should be met promptly and according to the constitution of the land. But so long as we continue to say that the youth need to be at the front line, or we need to support our youth, or this and that, so that we can move our country forward. There are a lot of things to do, especially here in Nigeria, because we are not being given the opportunity that we are supposed to be given, ranging from the area of education, because a lot of our youth are not well educated about even the country itself. Talking about its democracy, leadership, even the whole political process, they are not much cumbersome with it. And also, if we look at the civil engagement, the level of engagement is also poor. Our youth are not well engaged when it comes to issues of leadership, when it comes to issue of governance, or let me put it in general, when it comes to issue of politics. They are not being properly engaged. So therefore, there are a lot of issues that may tend to happen, because those old timers, they master the art, they are the main controllers of the whole terrain. So therefore, there are a lot of things to be put in place if we want to move forward as a country.
Hold that thought. We'll still continue with you. But right now in the studio, we have Dr. Malachy Ochie. He's joining us in this conversation that we are having. And he's looking at Ndibo and June 12 struggle, a history erased or ignored. Good morning, Dr. Malachy.
Good morning.
It's my pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Welcome, listeners and viewers.
Yes, welcome. Now, looking at Ndibo and June 12, first of all, can you kind of situate us historically on like what the political atmosphere was like in the Southeast, leading up to that June 12 election?
Oh, okay. It's important because historical context puts issues in proper perspectives. The events leading up to June 12th. You know, consequent on General Babangida's pyrotechnics, transition pyrotechnics. Babangida had urged Nigerian politicians to form political associations. His argument was that the political parties of the First Republic and even the Second Republic were fundamentally ethnic-based, regionally based, and he wanted a departure from that. And so he brought into the Nigerian political lexicon a new cliche known as New Breedism. And in that context, he unilaterally waived off the 13 political associations that qualified for registration and created a government-sponsored two political parties, the National Republican Convention and the Social Democratic Party. And in the Southeast, all the Southeast Igbo wanted was a return to democracy. Igbos are fundamentally democratic because of their egalitarian and republican nature. Igbos do not want to be heckled in by such circumstances as militarism, dictatorship, and totalitarianism, which the government of General Ibrahim Babangida was angling for. So it was in this context, and remember also that the Igbo at that time was still smarting from the losses of the Nigerian Civil War. So they were not properly positioned to make a case for themselves in terms of economic empowerment, in terms of material empowerment, in terms of even social and political empowerment. We are still smarting from the backlash of the Nigerian Civil War. So it was in this context that June 12th happened. June 12th happened because something unique happened in Nigeria. And that something unique was an initiative or a creation of an Igbo man called Professor Humphrey Mosu, who introduced a novel way of determining the acceptance or rejection of a candidate. He introduced the option A4. And in the run-in to that presidential election on June 12th, it was like Igbos had no stake. MKO Abiola, who was the presidential flag bearer of the SDP, also had a Muslim running on the same ticket with him, Babagana Kingibe. And Bashir Tofa was flagging the flag of NRC. So in the entire thing, the Igbos had no stake, so to say, in terms of who represents them or who does not represent them. Running on Muslim ticket has always been a very big problem in Nigeria, and because the political class and indeed Nigerians will want a balance in the ethnic and religious representation of political contestants. But this did not happen. Yet, even with the Muslim ticket, Abiola was able to command the votes of the Southeast. He won convincingly in Imo. He won convincingly in Anambra State. He won marginally in other parts of the Southeast. But all given, it was a massive support from the Igbos, irrespective of the character of the presidential ticket. And what happened was that Humphrey Mosu was in the studio announcing that result. And it was obvious that MK Abiola was going to win. And suddenly he was harangued, bullied, beaten, and forced to stop the announcement. He has written a memoir before his death on June 12th, and he confessed in that memoir, that book, that MK Abiola won that election. And when that election was annulled against all expectations, Nigerians rose in protest. The Igbos were not left out. The Igbos were not left out. We plunged ourselves into the struggle for June 12th. But what is happening today? Today is that the narrative about June 12th appears to be hugely Yoruba-centric. It appears to be concentrated in Lagos and Ogun State, but that is not the true story. Today you hear when they give national broadcasts or June 12th memorabilia, you hear about names like Pa Alfred Rewane, you hear about names like Adebanjo, you hear about names about Akin Sonia, you hear about Tony Enahoro, you hear about Kudirat Abiola, and so many of them. So in all this, where are the Igbos? Does it mean the Igbos did not participate in the struggle for the realization of June 12th? And the answer is no, the Igbos participated very manifestly and loudly. So where is the place of Humphrey Nwosu, for instance, in all of this? Where? Where is the place of Rear Admiral Ndubisanu? Commodore B2 Kiwe? Where are they? Dr. Tonwampo, Uche Chukwumerije, Senator Onyejocha, and many others I cannot possibly. Even the Igbo man in Lagos now, who I believe has taken something, a concussion that, runs riot in his brain. That's Joe Ibokwe. He was also at the front burner for the realization. So where is the place of all these Igbos? And so one begins to think that the narrative is so skewed as to purposely obliterate, erase, or ignore contributions of the Igbo nation in the realization of that struggle. Noting also that, you see, historical revisionism is dangerous.
Yes. The moment, let's head on to our Birnin Kebbi studio to ask Aliyu Abubakar Sagu about how we can revive the spirit of participation, civic participation among the younger generation, because he mentioned that earlier. You mentioned that earlier, saying that the youth are no longer participating. There is low youth engagement in civic participation. So how can we bring up the youth once again to want to participate and exercise their duties as citizens?
That's interesting. It's a very good question. Nigeria is still our country, so we still have to celebrate it. To increase the youth participation in the democratic processes, there are a lot of roles to be played, ranging from the government roles. They need to be responsible, accountable, and engage the youth in terms of governance so that they understand that the government is serious and ready to. And the next thing was the roles of the civil society organizations. They need to orient the citizens. They need to do it in a better way that it will inspire the youth so that they can come and join the movement in pressurizing the government to do the needful. And the next thing was that the INEC itself, they need to always remember, because they are the final hope to most of our youth, because they are the reasons why most of the time we are having issues of voters apathy, because there are a lot of people in this country that they are no longer interested in the issue of politics, among any other thing. I thank God with there is something I see in Kebbi State. For instance, like the Kebbi State government, seeing the participation of youth was low during the last administration. So this time around, they come with a different something. Like they appoint people as a special assistant, which over like somewhere around 700, though the number is very big. But I believe they does that just to lure the attention of the youth to feel like they need to be engaged, they have a role to play in the government among many other issues. So I'm not in support, I mean opposing this because it's a development. But the most important thing, the youth need to be oriented, because there are a number of them, they are just in the position but they are not contributing anything to the development. So therefore, those organizations, they need to put more effort in orienting people and become more accountable, more visible, among many other things. And the leaders has to be more accountable, because most of our youth are losing hope. And that's why some of them, when you talk about the government, the first thing they will do, they
Thank
will
you,
begin
Aliyu.
to
Let's
comment
get back to our
down.
studio with Dr. Malachy. Now, Dr. Malachy, you wanted to speak on the military and the democratic, the power dynamics between the two, looking at what happened at the June 12th election. So please go on with that.
The power dynamics between the military at that time and the civilian population can best be described as a reflection of the character of the Nigerian state and the Nigerian army. At that time, Nigeria was run like a relay race among the top brass of the northern military hierarchy. I won't be held reprobate if I say that at a point, the Nigerian military could best have been described as northern Nigerian military. We had run a relay race from after Yakubu Gowon. There was Murtala Mohammed. After Murtala Mohammed, there was Obasanjo. After Obasanjo, there was Buhari and Tunde Idiagbo. After that, we had Obasanjo, we had Babangida. After that, we had Abacha. After Abacha, we had Abdul Salami Abubakar, and so on. So it was like a relay race. The military, the civilian population at that time had nothing to talk about in terms of strength, except coming out on the street to protest against the annulment of June 12th. So the power dynamics was so unequal. It was so unequal. And I had the young man from Kebbi State talking about youth engagement. That is interesting. It's interesting. But I disagree with him where he sees youth engagement as appointment as special assistants and special advisors to the government. That is not youth engagement. That is one way of taking from the youth bulge, and giving them money, paying them at the end of the month. So once that administration is gone, and there is no way again to pay those youth, they go back to their trenches. So youth engagement has to be productive. It has to be intentional. It has to be focused. It has to be, focus driven. So what are you engaging the youth for? Agriculture, production, or what? You're not just engaging them because they helped you rig elections, they helped you carry ballot boxes or intimidated voters, and then for 4 years or 8 years, you employ them and they take salaries at the end of it. So at the end of 8 years at most, that youth gets back to the trend because the next government may not be pro him or thereabout.
Yeah.
So that's the major problem of youth engagement. But beyond that is the issue of, you see, June 12th was a watershed for Nigeria to rediscover itself. Nigeria can best be described as a lumbering behemoth in search of a safe bet. June 12 provided a platform to recalibrate Nigeria. But then, as used to be, certain powers in Nigeria, especially from the southwest, went on to ethnicize June 12. June 12 did not just happen to the Yoruba nation. It is a tragedy that happened to the entire Nigeria. It's a tragedy that happened to the entire Nigeria. And after the pyrotechnics of the military, Nigeria realized that the Yoruba nation had been dealt a rough card. It's been dealt unjustly. Just like the Igbos were unjustly dealt with. And Nigeria decided to compensate the Southwest, the Yoruba nation, for what evil that history that Nigeria has happened to them. And they compensated them with the presidency of Obasanjo. And that is an indictment on Nigeria's historical and political leaders. That if you realize that the Yorubas were dealt a wrong card during the June 12th, what stops you from realizing that the Igbos were dealt a rough card in the February 15th, 1966 coup, which was dubiously tagged Igbo coup, and on basis of which Arab riots arose, on the basis of which a choreographed genocidal pogrom against the Igbos was orchestrated. Why were the Igbos driven back to their homelands? That is a historical injustice. And a lot of people tell Nigeria stories as if that never happened. A lot of people tell the June story as if the Igbos were never involved. And that is a major historical revisionism. And you know what? One of the dangers of historical revisionism is that it beclouds the truth. It beclouds the truth. So the Igbos must be given their rightful place in Nigeria. If the Yorubas were compensated, knowing that a wrong has been done to them, the Igbos need to be compensated, if that word compensation is the right word. But they need to be dealt a favorable card, and so on. We have not been done, that has not been done to the Igbos. And we cannot keep quiet. We will keep complaining until Nigeria does the right thing. We'll keep complaining until Nigeria does the right thing. I am persuaded that the Igbos are the only group in Nigeria that has paid the ultimate price for this country called Nigeria. We have properties everywhere. We make homes wherever we see ourselves. We believe in Nigeria. We believe in the community of brotherhood. We believe that Nigeria has a high stake, has a high destiny. We believe that we can contribute our quota to make Nigeria a better place. And the rest of Nigeria appear not to trust the Igbos. And that is dangerous. And I'm sure that if you cannot trust your fellow countryman, you just come out on TV and say Nigeria, fellow countrymen, and so on. All these things are lip deep. They are not heart deep. So I believe that for Nigeria to rise from her ashes, the Igbos must be integrated into the mainstream of what is happening in Nigeria. You cannot, just like you cannot play Olarotimi's the gods
are not to blame.
began and not to blame. You cannot play that drama without King Adewale. You cannot play it. Just like you cannot play Things Fall Apart without Okonkwo. It's a futile attempt. The Igbos represent King Adewale. The Igbos represent Okonkwo. The Igbos represent that which can make Nigeria great.
But before you go, Aliyu, just like I asked Emeka, as we mark another June 12, what is your message to Nigerians watching today, particularly the youth?
All right. So my final words goes this way. I want our youth to remember one thing. We should know that Nigeria is still our country. We should be hopeful. We should be to exonerate ourselves from what is, from participating in democratic processes is not an excuse. If our predecessors have failed us, we should know that we have a role to play. We should be the turning point generation. We have a lot of role to play in curtailing the issues that are happening today. We shouldn't lose hope. We should always try our own possible best to engage ourselves in the political process, though we know the terrain was not that favorable to us, but we should be the heroes of the future, those that will play the role, so that those that are coming after us will appreciate our effort. Today, we are leveraging from the effort of other people who put it out of, from the military rule to today's democracy. Though there are a lot of here and there, we should still remain focused and work very hard to make sure that we change the narratives. We also need to engage ourselves in the area of leadership so that we can change the whole issue. There are a lot of us that seeing the whole mark of the situation make them feel like they need to exonerate from politics. They need to exonerate from issues of leadership. They need to embrace something differently. We should know that if we exonerate ourselves, there are a lot of people who are incompetent that will go there and be the ones to decide on our future, to decide on our salary, to decide on our wages, to decide on even our pension, to decide on even the food that we eat, the clothes we, among many, many other things. Many, many more important decisions, they will be the ones to do that. That means it is highly much imperative for all of us to play our own card. Anywhere we can contribute to the development of this country, we should do all our best to make sure that this country recuperates itself back to its moribund. Thank you.
Aliyu Abubakar Wasagu, thank you so much for your inputs and your insights on this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we are back to our studio with Dr. Malachy Ochie. He's still here with us on June 12th. That's our topic for today. That's all we are talking about.
Yes, it's
today,
important.
as
Yes.
it should be. So, any final words, anything you'd like to, put out there for people who are...
Well, now, because we talk about celebrating Democracy Day, and you ask, whose democracy? What are the ingredients of democracy? Because, to be honest, we are deceiving ourselves in this country. Democracy has to do with transparency in elections. Democracy has to do with people exercising their civic responsibilities without coercion, without force. Democracy has to do with engaging the people in a meaningful manner. Democracy has to do with listening to the voice of the downtrodden, listening to the voice of the market woman, listening to the voice of the truck driver, and all segments of society. Democracy does not have to do with siren blowing. It doesn't have to do with obscene demonstration of wealth. It doesn't have to do with a process where the umpire, the election management body, will cynically tell the electorate, go to court. So if all these things and more are brought to bear, one will be asking, what Democracy Day are we celebrating? Look at the 2023 elections and tell me if there is a democracy in Nigeria to celebrate. So, as for Emeka Umabalase, who is talking about electoral reforms, I agree with him to a certain extent in the hope that we will embrace the tenets of democracy and move forward to a united Nigeria. Nigeria is such a blessed country. There is this joke. When I was much younger, I listened to it, I laughed, I never believed it could be true. A comedian was speaking to his audience. He said when God was creating Nigeria, he was throwing all manner of resources into Nigeria. Crude oil, diamond, coal, name it, gas. And people like in places like Japan, Nepal, and Thailand, they were saying, oh God, you're partial. Why? We don't even have one. And God turned and told them, wait until you see the manner of people I will put in charge of these resources. Nigeria is a country that is so blessed of God. It has refused to collapse, despite the blinding criminality that our political leaders and military officers have subjected us to in this country. It is only in this country that a pregnant woman in Niger Delta, where the oil is produced, will die at childbirth because she has no access to Medicare. It is only in Nigeria that a policeman will use his gun and kill a civilian, and nothing is done about it. It is only in Nigeria that there are so many ungoverned spaces taken up by bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists. It's only in this country. And we are talking about celebrating Democracy Day. We are talking about celebrating a day that should have served as a memento to that ordinary woman in the market who could afford a cup of garri. A lot of families in Nigeria cannot afford a cup of garri. Today in Nigeria, a lot of families eat rice once in a month. Today, a lot of families resort to self-medication because there's no medical medicine. Yet, this is a country hugely blessed of God, and we have progressively run this country aground. It is a question of elitist manipulation of the electorate, and that is not good. It is not healthy for our society. And for those who lay claim to the leadership of this country, I want to warn you that Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Don't be surprised, because there is a limit to which people can take. There's a limit to which this kind of deceit can take. Baron Braham said that education makes a people easy to govern but difficult to enslave. And you do not just acquire education in the classroom. You acquire education even by daily experience. And people are acquiring this education and are getting tired of so many excuses, so many banal commitments, not even commitment, but sermonizations, pontifications, telling you Nigeria will be well, and so on. I have always said that this country can do better if we unpack this contradiction called Nigeria. Let all come to a round table and say, this is our country. We want to make it great. Do you know the only thing that brings people together in this country is when Nigeria is playing football, the game of football. Today, even that game of football has been so mismanaged that Nigerians have lost hope in their football team. That is how terrible it has become. So we are celebrating. We are saying this is Democracy Day. Let our leaders imbibe the tenets of democracy, so that when we celebrate next Democracy Day, we will say of a truth, this 2025 Democracy Day was a one that marked Nigeria's beginning. I will end this thing by reminding Nigerians of the comment Napoleon Bonaparte made about China when Napoleon Bonaparte was the warlord of the globe. He came to China and he said, China, there lies the great giant. Let her sleep. For when she wakes up from her slumber, she will move the world. The question is, does Nigeria realize that she is slumbering? Will she ever wake from her slumber? If she does wake eventually, will she move the world?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Malachy Ochie, for that wonderful, you summed it up perfectly well. Dr. Malachy Ochie is the Dean, School of Business and Social Sciences, Maduka University, Ekwegbe, Nsukka. Thank you for your time, sir. It's
thank you so much.
Appreciated.
And thank you, Nigerians. I wish you patience.
Yes.
As we celebrate.
Let us remember that today, being June 12th, is not just another public holiday. It reminds us of the power of our voices, our votes, and our vision for a better Nigeria. And this is where we wrap it up on today's edition of the morning program from our Enugu studios. My name is Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha, and we'll be handing over to our Abuja studios for the continuation of the morning program. Good morning.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.